Hey everyone, this is Joe. I am the digital astronomer and I want to welcome you back to my channel. Tonight you can see I've got fairly good skies. This is a rare opportunity. Tonight I'm going to have clear skies, and tomorrow night I'm going to even have better skies, where tonight our seeing is going to be kind of average. Tomorrow night the seeing is actually going to be above average. So I'm looking forward probably tomorrow night to sticking it out throughout the entire evening and hopefully catching some really good images. Tonight I'm going to continue working on a project that I started a few days ago, imaging NGC 6820 and NGC 6823. Now, 6820 is a small reflection nebula around a larger cluster of stars. And so that's what we're going to be working on tonight. I'm going to capture at least maybe 4 or 5 hours. I'm going to shoot until somewhere between midnight and 2 o'clock tonight. We're back to standard time, so it's only 5 o'clock, and you can see it's already getting dark out here. Within the next hour or so, it will be dark enough for me to get my polar alignment, and then we're imaging, and hopefully going to image right up through somewhere around midnight till like this object is going to get kind of low in my western sky. But stick around. For just a moment, I'll tell you a little bit more about this reflection nebula, and then we'll look at the capture and hopefully have a good picture to show you. All right, before we get into some of the capture video and, of course, showing the final image, let me show you a little bit about this object. NGC 6820 and 6823 refer to these two objects here. There are actually two objects in this picture. 6820 is the nebulosity that goes around 6823, which is this star cluster here. So I get those backwards a couple of times in my mind, and so I hope I refer to these correctly. But technically, NGC 6820 is the emission nebula here. 6823 is this star cluster. Here's sort of the center, the part that we kind of really notice, but all of these are part of this star cluster. Okay, this object is located about 6,000 light years away from Earth. The nebula itself is about 50 light years across, roughly. And what's interesting about this, by the way, is some of these stars in the star cluster are actually quite young in comparison. They're about 2 million years old, which is fairly young in stellar um, age groups. All right, these are rather young new stars, and they're being birthed here by this nebula, which I'll show you some evidence of that here when we look at the final picture. But that's a kind of interesting object to me. I really like its shape, but it presents a few challenges to me. Let me show you three of them. The first one you might notice right away as I zoom out, you see that this is sort of in the center area of the Milky Way. So what ends up happening is you just get a really incredible amount of stars when you're shooting in this section, as you'll see when I show you the stacked picture. So right away, that's one issue, but that's a relatively minor problem. The two larger problems are the fact that I'm shooting towards the southwest, as you'll notice, and in my town, that puts me right aiming towards a lot of light pollution. The town of Metropolis sits in that direction, and then on across the river is Paducah, Kentucky, and there's just an incredible amount of light pollution. And since I can't convince all of my neighbors and my entire town and the town across the river from me to shut their lights off while I'm taking images, I'm stuck with that. Now, I'm able to mitigate a little bit of that by using the Optilong L-Enhance filter, which helps out a great deal with that light pollution. And so if it was just the light pollution, that wouldn't be too big of a problem. But look at this. If I move over, here's the problem. This is a full moon. In fact, over the 3 nights that I imaged this, I had a full moon and then a practically full moon for the other nights, but I did get a little bit of a break because the moon came up a little bit later. So no matter what, I was going to have to deal with the very, very bright moon. That is never a good idea. And let me just caveat this by saying, you will never get your best nebula pictures when you have that bright of a moon. I went ahead and did it. Again, the image could be better if I was shooting under better conditions, but the bottom line is that you got to take clear skies, and these were very, very clear skies. This was some of the most clear, transparent skies that I've had this fall, and had great seeing. So with that, let's go over. I'm going to show you a little bit of the capture video and show you what I was dealing with. Okay, let me show you what I've got. This is the first image of the evening that I've took. This area right in here is the star cluster, NGC 6820. Around it is an area of nebulosity. You can't see that in these images till they get stacked. But this is the first image that I've taken for the evening. You'll look here, you'll notice that I've gotten decent guiding, 0.79. It's floating around in there. I'm hoping this will be good. I'm already on the western side of the meridian, and so this should keep me out of the moonlight when the moon comes up here in a couple of hours. And it looks like I'm going to have a good amount of time. I should probably get maybe 3 or 4 good hours of imaging this particular object until it ducks down too close to some trees. You'll notice there that it says that I have 643 minutes before it goes down over the horizon, but I won't be able to image that long simply because of the trees in my backyard. But anyways, that's looking pretty good. If you compare that to what I did the other night, on the 30th, I shot this image, and you'll notice there's a big difference. All of that brightness there, that is glare from the moon. Okay, and so you can see how bad the moon affects this. But we're going to go ahead and capture several more hours, and we'll see how it goes. Stick around. Okay, so I took a total of 161 4-minute frames or subs, which totals out to almost 11 hours worth of total imaging. That was spread over a 3-night long period. You can see here I stacked it with 22 flats, 21 darks, and 30 dark flats. And this was the image that I got out of Astro Pixel Processor. Now, the only thing I've done is processing. I've stacked this picture. I went and did a quick light pollution removal, which there wasn't, honestly, that cleaned it up a good bit right there. And then I went over and did a star calibration. And you can watch some of my other videos to see exactly how I did that. I don't want to make this all about processing. I want to show you a couple of the issues, though, with the picture. First of all, you notice that the nebula is a little bit dim. And again, that's the problem of shooting a very dim object, which NGC 6820 is, on a full moon night. And then in light pollution, it's just going to be hard to get it real bright. The other problem with that, of course, is the incredible amount of stars. You're shooting right into the middle of the Milky Way, like I said a minute ago, and that creates a problem. So what I did was I took this image over to Photoshop, and this is the final processed picture. I don't want to get into a lot of details on the processing of this, but you'll notice is again, this is not the best image that I've ever taken, quite frankly. But given the conditions, I'm going to live with it and be happy with it. I do find it interesting. First of all, you can see here that these stars here are the very, very young stars that are being born out of this emission nebula. And you can even see here, here and over here, see some of these dark spots, these dark splotches. Those are called Bach globules, and those are areas where this gas is forming new stars. So this, you're really looking at a stellar nursery. And I've looked at those on several occasions. When we looked at the Eagle Nebula has a lot of these Bach globules. And this is a very similar, although much smaller, type of nebula. You'll see even here, you have this very interesting, in fact, this is probably the most famous feature in this particular nebula, is this long tube that's sticking up here. It almost reminds you of the pillars of creation. In fact, let's see, if I turn this image around, you'll see this almost looks again like the pillars of creation in the Eagle Nebula. And what's happened here, according to astronomers, is that stellar gas has blown through here, kind of blown a hole through here. And so, again, it's not the best image that I've ever taken, but I'm kind of intrigued by it and I like it. And I hope that you enjoyed it. Again, let this be a lesson to you. Don't try to shoot dim nebulas on nights with a full moon. You really just are never going to get your best work. But with that said, you've got to take advantage of clear skies when you've got them. So, and again, I hope you enjoyed the image. I hope you enjoyed this short video. Next week, I am going to show you some other pictures that I captured during this 3-night span, because I did have very transparent skies and great seeing conditions, but very bright conditions because of the moon. So I did do a couple of other star clusters with no nebulosity, but I will show you how I used that night to sort of practice and get an image of the Perseus double cluster. That's coming up next week. So I hope you subscribe to my channel and tune back in next week. Thank you for tuning in. Just a quick reminder, if you enjoyed this video, please help support me by clicking on thumbs up and share. Thank you.